when I look at crypto now, when I look at the whole industry, I'm like, we're going to get regulation in the next 12 to 18 months. We're going to have the Fed cutting rates, and we've got this new vehicle of adoption that is just getting started, right? The ETF is 2 weeks old. Usually ETFs get announced and they don't start trading for 6 to 7 weeks. So they give the sales forces a ton of time to be able to go make their phone calls. In this case, because of the grayscale thing, they had 1 day. And so if you're the Invesco sales force, you haven't even started making your calls, or Blackrock, or now we've got 9 big sales forces, huge sales forces that are selling Bitcoin. And that's a big, big deal.
Billionaire investor and CEO of Galaxy Digital, Mike Novogratz, is more bullish than ever on Bitcoin and the broader crypto space, particularly as 2024 emerges as a pivotal year for the industry. Novogratz cites several reasons for his extreme optimism. Firstly, he highlights the approval of the spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund as a historic moment that will significantly drive prices upwards in the coming weeks and months. During a recent fireside chat, Novogratz explained that typically, approved ETFs have days or even weeks before trading begins, allowing successful applicants more time to market the products to their wealthy clients. However, this was not the case with Bitcoin ETFs, as trading commenced the day after approval. Novogratz is confident that the substantial moves into these ETFs are still yet to materialize, particularly as major players like BlackRock, Fidelity, and Galaxy Digital offer spot Bitcoin ETFs in the coming months. Additionally, Novogratz is optimistic about another long-awaited event in the cryptocurrency industry: regulatory clarity in the United States. He predicts that within the next 12 to 18 months, much-needed regulatory clarity will finally be achieved, providing a significant boost to the industry. With these developments unfolding and major risks like FTX being addressed, Novogratz anticipates that this bull market will surpass expectations and become significantly larger than anticipated. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out Daily 5-Minute Crypto Newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your comment and observations in the comment section below. Thanks and enjoy the video.
From a crypto perspective, we came out of the Fed changing policy in 2021 and starting to hike rates aggressively. And so you would think hard assets like crypto and gold would go down, and they did. What accelerated that was all the fraud and bad behavior in the space. And so you had FTX and Celsius and just an embarrassment of bad participants. And so crypto is built on trust, and we lost a lot of trust. And so you had what's a classic market capitulation. Everybody hated it. You couldn't sell enough. Everyone deleveraged. No one's ever going to touch it again. And so when there's complete blood on the streets in markets, it's when you're supposed to come in and buy. It's very scary. You might look like an idiot, but that's when the greatest buying opportunities were. So Bitcoin at 18, 17,000, with hindsight, was a great buying opportunity. So what switched? How did we go from all those headwinds to tailwinds? First, the Fed got closer to finishing their rate hike cycle, right? They're hiking. They're not going to hike forever. And so you could sense and then see the pause, and now we're going to start the rate cutting cycle. And so that was the macro tailwind. You had a weird combination of good things happen, right? Grayscale, which was this big closed-end fund full of Bitcoin, sued the SEC and said, this is unfair, you won't let an ETF happen. And they won. The reason we have an ETF is not because Gary Gensler decided, I really love crypto now, or the Biden administration, is because they lost in the courts. We have 3 parts of government, and thank God for the courts in terms of the crypto industry. And so all of a sudden we're going to get an ETF. Larry Fink, one of the most influential asset managers in history, came out and said, hey, this thing called Bitcoin, I know I used to think it didn't serve a purpose, but it's pretty important. And so the fact that Larry Fink got orange-pilled, monstrously important, right? Because it represented institutional investors everywhere. There are lots of different players, but he holds a unique post as the head of the largest asset manager in the world. And all of a sudden, crypto's always been about a macro story and adoption. You could start sensing, oh, adoption is going to come. And so people start front running that. We also cleared up Binance, right? The biggest crypto exchange in the world is Binance. There were all this worry, is the money there? CZ settled with the government for some KYC fines, paid a huge fine, and stepped down. And so the risk around Binance, the biggest player, went from here to here, right? So now it's an exchange, it's still the largest exchange, but no one thinks, oh, it's gonna get shut down in a week. No one thinks they don't have the money. It's just an offshore player. And so we took a lot of the tail risks away and put a tailwind together. And now you got a position where, what's left to really get us going? Well, the US still is in a stalemate on regulation, but the optimism is there's 11 months left to an election. And no matter who wins, Democrats or Republicans, Gary Gensler's not going to be the SEC chair. You are going to get some legislation. You're going to get movement. And when I go to DC, there is bipartisan agreement on two pieces of legislation. It's being blocked by Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler and a few other players. But that will change.
The debate over cryptocurrency regulation in the United States has been ongoing for quite some time. Today, Secretary Janet Yellen is set to testify before the House Financial Services Committee, addressing the potential risks posed by the crypto industry to the financial system. Yellen's prepared remarks touch upon various concerns, including the instability of stablecoins, the risk of runs on crypto platforms, and the volatility of crypto asset prices. As a current member of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, a coalition of federal financial regulators tasked with safeguarding the stability of the country's financial system, Yellen will present the Council's latest annual report and stress the importance of regulatory clarity for the cryptocurrency space. According to her prepared remarks, the Council is focused on addressing digital assets and related risks, such as runs on crypto asset platforms, stablecoin vulnerabilities, and platforms operating outside or in non-compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Yellen's prepared speech underscores the necessity for Congress to enact legislation to address these concerns, particularly by regulating stablecoins and the spot market for crypto assets not classified as securities. While Yellen's stance may lean relatively anti-crypto, such regulatory efforts could pave the way for much-needed regulations within the industry. Now, let's return to Novogratz as he discusses inflation and his overall outlook for the U.S. economy.
Satoshi Nakamoto, when she wrote her paper, she was really writing it as a response to what she saw or they saw, that populism was coming, right? The white paper really is the guard of populism. And what we have seen since is the two most populist presidents of the last 40 years, right? Donald Trump and then Joe Biden, right? Trump increased government spending a staggering amount before COVID and then blew the doors off. And Biden has just said, hey, my turn now. And so we have normalized spending 25% of GDP on the federal government. I worked at the Office of Management and Budget in 1984, to tell you how old I am. And I was working for the David Stockman administration, the Reagan administration. David Stockman was the head of the OMB. And I learned, hey, this is the rules. The feds get to spend 20% and try to tax 20%. And they usually tax less than 20%. And so our budget deficit is usually because we tax 16 and we spend 20. And that's Republican administration, Democratic administration. The only time we balanced the budget was 1999 with Bill Clinton because we had those tech receipts. And we got there briefly. Right? But that's the framework we've used. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, voila, we're at 25%. Look at next year's budget projection, it's 26%. And we're not even taxing 18. So we have this giant deficit that's being funded. We have a fiscal crisis in this country that is not going away. And when I go to DC, they're doing nothing about it. Like you say, we need a Simpson-Bowles bill. For the guys old enough to remember Simpson-Bowles, it was a balanced budget. How do we get the budget back in check? It's not on the agenda.
Why do you think that is? Why is it not on the agenda?
You know, we went through this period of low rates where it felt like money could grow on trees. And, right, modern monetary theory, Elizabeth Warren, money grows on trees. There are still plenty of people that think this works. It felt like it did work, right? We had low interest rates and low inflation for a long period of time. What people forget is when you have inflation like we had the last 3 years, the just devastation it does to most people in the country. Forget the people that come to this conference are lucky enough or smart enough to get managers that can kind of navigate around it. But in 2010, the average house in America cost $189,000. 2010 was like a 3-iron away from here. We're now 2024, and the average house costs $400,000.
Wow.
We've doubled the price of the average house in America in like 12 years. That is staggering. And so this inflation of assets, the inflation of goods, crushes America. And it's why we're even more populism now. It's why Donald Trump still gets 38% of the vote every single poll, because that group of people feel like nothing's working for me, and screw you people in DC. And so we're in this cycle. I don't know what gets out. When I say Hail Marys at night, the one potential salvation is that AI is just so transformative that it becomes the greatest productivity boost in modern history. And we have such a productivity boost that inflation stays low and we can continue to run these giant deficits because they don't cost anything.
Yeah.
I think that's a very narrow target. I think AI is going to have a big impact, but I think that it could just show up everywhere in time is a low probability.
During a recent interview with 60 Minutes, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell appeared to echo Mike Novogratz's bleak outlook on the U.S. economy. In response to a question regarding the national debt's threat to the economy, Powell acknowledged the unsustainable fiscal path the U.S. federal government is on, with the debt outpacing economic growth. However, he tempered this outlook by expressing optimism about finding a way forward. Powell emphasized the need to return to a sustainable fiscal path, noting a growing consensus among elected officials to address this issue. Powell also discussed the Federal Open Market Committee's stance on rate cuts, stating that they require more evidence of inflation sustainably moving down to 2% before considering such action. Despite this caution, he expressed confidence in seeing the necessary evidence materialize this year, leading to widespread agreement within the FOMC on the appropriateness of reducing interest rates. Do you share Jerome Powell's optimism about the U.S. economy? Feel free to share your thoughts on both Powell's remarks and Mike Novogratz's fireside chat in the comments section below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.